Hey everyone, welcome back to Sgcarmart Reviews. So today we are driving the recently facelifted Citroen C5 Aircross. So let's take a closer look as to what has changed. Now, before we get to today's review, if you are thinking of selling your car, try Quotz. Quotz helps you sell your car quickly and easily. With the new Quotz doorstep, get a professional inspection by our certified mechanics at your convenience anywhere on the island. Quotz will then auction out your car online to its wide network of dealers to bid on your car. Once bidding is complete, Quotz will update you with the best price at no obligation. It's that easy. To find out more, visit quotz.com.sg. That's QUOTZ.com.sg. Now, back to the review. The Citroen C5 Aircross is priced at $152,999. The 1.2-litre 3-cylinder turbocharged engine produces 128 brake horsepower and 230 Nm of torque. The 8-speed transmission brings the car from 0 to 100 km/h in 10.3 seconds. The C5 Aircross has a claimed fuel consumption figure of 20.4 km per litre. For more details on the Citroen C5 Aircross or any other car, head on to sgcarmart.com to help you make the smart choice on your next car. Now, the main changes to this car are at the front. So we have a redesigned front grille, new look headlights, as well as redesigned air intakes. And I would say that this car moves away from the slightly more roundish aesthetic of its predecessor and now has a more rugged and I guess typical SUV look. Now, if we slide on down, we have 18-inch rims and we still have this slightly funky mudguard at the side, which you might recognize from the pre-facelift model. Now, if we go over to the back, at the back, we also have these redesigned taillights, so it has that 3D effect that you're seeing more and more cars these days. Now, boot space. Here we have a 580-litre boot, which is actually quite generous for a car in this class, although quite a bit of that space is actually underneath here. And of course, this will fit the big luggage and it will pass the anti-trolley length test. Now, one cool thing about this car is that the boot space can be expanded in a couple of ways, but I think that's easier to explain when we're inside the car. So let's get inside. Now, like I mentioned, this car has quite an interesting configuration as far as space is concerned. So what do I mean? At the rear, we have 3 individual seats, so this can be moved forward so you can get a little bit more space at the back. Or if you really need, these seats can be, again, individually folded flat. So for example, 1, if I can find the pull tab, 2, etc. right? So if you need perhaps 1 long space for an item there, then you can still have 2 completely usable seats. So I think that's a very interesting function of this car, right? That there is that kind of configurable space to the car. Now, as far as the rear seats are concerned, these are what Citroen calls its advanced comfort seats. So these are now standard on the C5 and they are very comfortable. So these have high density foam and whatsoever, and it's a nice comfortable seat, right? It's a little bit bouncy, good support, and overall I quite like it. Now, as far as space is concerned, I have a decent amount of leg room and quite a good amount of headroom at 1.7, so average Singaporean man height, and it's comfortable, It's a comfortable space to sit in. And again, like I mentioned, because these are 3 individual and identical seats, it doesn't really matter whether you're sitting here, right? And also because the floor is flat, if you sit in the middle, it's completely comfortable. There's a little bit less knee room because, of the aircon vents here, but other than that, it feels almost identical to being seated here or here. So, no need to fight about who's going to sit in the middle seat, right? It's perfectly comfortable. Now, amenities, we have aircon vents, we have 1 USB-A port, and we have ISOFIX points as well. Quite a simple rear cabin. Now, let's jump into the front. Now, in the front of the cabin, it is a very familiar space, so it's largely unchanged, right? We have the same screen, same controls, buttons, everything. The one thing that's different is the fact that in the pre-facelift model, there was a gear lever here. Now it's just a rocker switch for the gear shifts, and I actually like this new setup because it feels less cluttered. You have a nice single flat surface here, and it does enhance that feeling of spaciousness a little bit. Now, is there anything I would change about this cabin? I would perhaps want a little bit more color and a little bit more cheerfulness here, you know, maybe with some contrasting panels or a little bit more color. Right now we have just these contrasting stitching, but other than that, it actually feels perhaps a little bit sensible and serious. You know, maybe it's something to do with the fact that this is a French car, but I kind of want it to feel a little bit more quirky and cheerful. But you know, other than that, it's a very familiar, very comfortable and very usable space. Now let's see how this feels on the road. This car is all about comfort, and I do think it does what it says on the tin, right? So it is quite soft riding over bumps, you know, it feels very smooth on the roads, and this is really down to the brand's progressive hydraulic cushion. So this is its, you know, suspension technology that's supposed to enhance that comfort, and I must say it's good, it does its job, right? I guess the one downside of this pretty soft suspension setup is the fact that if you're going quickly around bends, this car of course will have some body roll, and I think that's to be expected. But let's be real, you probably shouldn't be going quickly around bends in this car, right? This is not that sort of car. This is the kind of car that you should really be driving quite lightly, quite smoothly, and I think when you do that, it is a pretty pleasant experience. The other thing I also do like is the fact that the steering is nice and light, so you know, in multi-story car parks, going around some 90-degree bends, I think it's easy to negotiate with this car. Now, engine-wise, this car is powered by a 1.2-litre engine. It's not particularly quick, but I must say, I think it's actually quite refined, so it's pretty quiet, it's quite smooth, and even at highway speeds, you don't really ever feel like it's really out of breath, right? You can be cruising along at 90, even with 4 or 5 people in the car, and I think it still feels pretty solid. And I think that's perhaps what's quite nice about this particular car, which is that, look, if I put my foot down, not super quick, but you know, not rough in any way, right? Which you might imagine from a slightly smaller capacity engine. It's pretty smooth, and I like that about this car. Now, fuel consumption, I think that's something that people might be quite keen to know about this particular car. So on the dash right now, it reads 11.9 km per litre, so that's with mixed driving, right? So highways, you know, normal roads, as well as, let's be honest, some low speed driving, because we have been filming with this car. So I think that's a pretty solid number. I do think I could probably get it up maybe closer towards 13 or at least the high 12s. Overall, I must say, I do like this car. It's comfortable, it's easy to drive, it's, I think, quite easy to live with, and not too many complaints. One thing I must point out, so I drove the previous C5 Aircross, right, the pre-facelift model, and I do remember that one to have slightly sort of vague, mushy brakes, and it's a lot better now. So for example, if I get on the brakes now, yeah, it's solid, it's a good set of brakes, so I think that's a significant improvement. So, the facelifted Citroen C5 Aircross, is it a will buy, won't buy, or go try? I think this is a go try. Let's be real, this C5 isn't the sort of vehicle that people get emotionally excited about, right? This really wants to appeal to the rational mind. And I think the appeal is there. So, the engine, for example, is not particularly powerful, but the upside of a downsized engine is the fact that this is a Cat A car, and you're going to have slightly lower running costs in terms of road tax, in terms of petrol. And overall, it's practical, it's a comfortable, and I think it's a very approachable car. And as a result, I think the appeal is certainly there. So as a family-friendly and I would say a wallet-friendly SUV, I think this is really worth considering. So thanks for watching our review of the facelifted Citroen C5 Aircross. Do remember to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Those of you watching who are not subscribed, please subscribe. And hit the notification bell so you will be alerted of all our upcoming videos. And of course, check us out on TikTok. There's plenty of fun stuff going on there, so check it out at Sgcarmart. So that's all I have for today. I'll see you soon. Bye.
I think it's going wrong.
It's not a bug, it's a bee. Ah! I don't like these, I've been stung before. You know, contrasting color plastics or the materials, or the plane is flying all over, doing like sharp 90-degree turns, things like that.